Both still there?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hello.
Both still there? This dude's gonna want me to. Okay, we are live. All right. What is up? What is up? What is up? And what is going on, fellow fanatics? What up? Fix my setup here real fast. Anyway, what is going on, fellow fanatics? I am your host today, Trey, and I'm joined with my wonderful co-hosts, Kellen and Corey. And
Hi,
we
guys.
just watched what might be one of the better episodes of television I've seen in a long time.
Yes.
House of the Dragon is killing it every single week. This was definitely the build up to the finale. This was definitely the setup of the century, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the greens versus the blacks, and it is.
Yes.
One moment, you guys. Trying to fix one thing about my setup here. Okay, so, overall, this episode, I thought, it was fantastic. The imagery, the sound, I mean, it was a beautiful episode from start to finish. They knocked it out of the park with all of their cinematography, like they always do, right?
Yes.
So, we all watched it, and we, want to give you our opinions on the episode, what we think's going to happen next, what we thought of the little nitty gritty details they always like to throw in. And for those of you who normally watch our show, yes, we're doing this on a little bit of a different format today. It's been a heavy streaming day. If y'all haven't seen it, there was a long stream with a bunch of Back of the Bus reviews, movie blog, E-Man, all about Recast T'Challa. Definitely check that out if you get the chance. But today, we're going to jump right into House of the Dragon, episode 9? Am I correct?
Yes.
All right, episode 9.
Episode 9.
The second to the last episode of this amazing season. And, I'll just go right into it. The beginning of this episode, Game of Thrones always knocked it out of the park with these long scenes of silence where the music sort of tells the story, right? So we open up into this, the Red Keep is silent. King Viserys has passed. And you see the little messenger boy beginning to spread his word around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this leads directly into, Alicent is crying, right? She's crying, and Otto Hightower right away begins letting his plot out, begins setting everything in motion.
Plotting and
So okay, Corey, take the jump on this one. What do you think about that? About just like the dynamic between Alicent and her father I know there's more later on in the episode, but just in that moment of King Viserys is dead, she is crying. How did you feel about that whole scene playing out?
I feel like it was just about time. I feel like Alicent, like most women and most girls, put their dad on a pedestal. And I think that was the first time in a while where the legs just came out from that pedestal and she just finally saw her dad in a different shadow. And I feel like that's what immediately set the tone for this episode.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that was fantastic of she was playing the role of a grieving wife. She did her duty to the king. She had a family with him, right?
Yeah.
And to see Otto just immediately beginning the plot, and it was heart-wrenching, and it also added a dynamic to her character I never thought I would see.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was crazy because I feel like I was waiting for this side, though. I was waiting for her to burst and be like, no, this is not okay. Enough is enough. We want the same goals, but how we want to get there is completely different.
Agreed. And, she's sticking to this, the king's last words, which stop naming your children Aegon Targaryen. Let's be
oh my gosh. I'm like, we have like 4 of them. How did you get to your son?
Right. And that's a thing, because if you've seen Game of Thrones proper, you know that story. You know what he's telling. It's the story from Game of Thrones, right? So it's all just a big, oh shit, right? But that leads us directly into, and this is something I want to direct straight to Kellen. So we had the scene where the small council comes together. They're all sitting around the table, and they're discussing the king has passed. Alicent seems to kind of lament and is like, "How long have y'all been planning behind my back? How long have y'all been scheming and setting up my son to be king?" And then, of course, I'll call him Cuck Lord Kristen Cole. I'm not a fan of that man. Kills Beesbury.
Mm-hmm.
And it all comes down to the Lord Commander removing his cloak, ripping it off and saying, "I serve a king and there is no king." Kellen, what would that whole scene, what would that make you feel?
Well, with her, it's just, she's just been used in all this. Her dad set her up to be in this situation in the first place, and then she's confronted by the fact that literally the king has just died, and no time wasted, and exactly, she's like, this has clearly been in motion. Like, how long have you guys been planning this? Like, you guys have been doing all this, and she's really like, she's waking up to the fact that she's just like this pawn and everything, and like she wants things to go a certain way, but like she doesn't know how she's supposed to go about that, like, at all, it seems, and she's just kind of powerless with it. And
oh no, you're right, and that's something that we can go into it a little more after this. But when Rhaenys and her discussed, that was a big thing where she's like, "You've been led by your king, by your dad, by all these men."
Right.
Yeah.
And you can see from the setup, every man there had their plan, and she's just like, I mean, I even give credit to, I'll ask you this, Corey, what did you think about her multiple times, but it started here, defending Rhaenyra, where, she was clearly like, "This is what my husband said to me, but I don't want her to die or to be locked up. That's not what my husband wanted."
Yeah. I think I feel kind of bad because I feel like she's so stuck in the middle because one, every character from the jump has said that she was meant to be queen. Like, that position was not, meant for him. It just was given to her brother because the fact that he was a male and he could breed other males. And so I think that has a big play in it. She's supporting not just someone who is her family, but someone who has a very big hand of half of her family being gone. And not just that, she just married, she married the man. That was another reason for half of her family to be gone. And then her brother just died. I just feel like she's so lost. She's so conflicted. And I think she was defending what she knew she needed to defend, but she was trying to find a way of, how can I get on top of this for myself as well?
Right,
and I think that's why you see those conflicting feelings of hers going back and forth. She wants to honor her family. She wants to honor her husband's word. And, the pledge, but at the same time, she has to figure out what she's going to do next. And for her castle.
Absolutely. And, especially you're throwing kids in the mix. It's definitely a, what decision do I make here? Because, unlike you saw these two women at the dinner table they were trying to make amends. They used to be best friends, right?
Yeah.
Rhaenyra's not stupid. She understands Alicent got pushed into this. Like, they all know what's going on. But, like, when you're in it and you have no choice but to be in it, it is tough. And I think it shows through very well on both of their characters.
It shows specifically for both of them as women, like how little options they have, how little say they have.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, there really is so little that they actually are able to be responsible of and like actually put things into motion. Like, for the most part, they just get to either be used by a man or get to be in a man's ear to try to make change. They don't get to actually do it in and of themselves unless they're on a dragon or something.
Right.
But,
yeah, like they don't have an implement, they don't have a word, they don't have a voice in it. Like, they're just pawns in the game.
Right. And they make a position for themselves, right? If they do something that is to protect their children, to protect their lives, it is by the other side seen as it is technically, it's a power play against the other side, because they feel in desperation that if I don't do this, my children can die. Like, it's such a manipulation. But to get going on this, because here's where we actually get into the children. And for anybody in the chat, anybody watching this, Forgive us, we have new technical difficulties. We are definitely trying out this Discord chat for the first time. It's something we might jump into for side segments and stuff. So I just wanted to bring that up just in case. But, we talked about the kids, right? So, you have, I could never think of the daughter of Alicent, the sister queen. Why can I never think of her name? But you've got, obviously Aegon Targaryen and his brother, Aemon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to see, so right after this moment, you see the plots begin to converge, right? You see Alicent sends Aemond to find Aegon. You see Otto sending people to find Aegon as well. It's sort of this fun cat and mouse game to find him, where so much gets revealed about him. That he is a horrible person.
A whole different person.
I didn't think I didn't think the Silk scene was necessarily too telling to me. It's just like, oh, he whores, right? Like that's Game of Thrones 101. But to me, what did y'all and I'll let whoever wants to take this. What did y'all think of the very quick but very clear his bastards are being bred for children fights?
I'll let you go first if you want to touch base on that.
Bastards. I don't know.
Okay. So it was really quick, but so when they went and saw the kid fights where they're sharpening kids' teeth and growing out their nails in order to have them fight, right? Well, the two brothers, the Kingsguard, they at one point look and they see a little boy with white hair, and he goes, "Aegon's bastards." So even his own children fight there.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I remember them seeing that little blonde boy that was off to the side when they were.
And he asked, they go, "Oh, Aegon's," and they said, "Probably."
Right. I mean, what are your thoughts? But in general, just that there's these children, because this episode showed a lot of dynamic about different groups of people within the city. You see the poor, you see the messengers, the spies. What are your overall thoughts just on that discovery? Like they're allowing children fights.
Yeah, as ugly as it was, I think it was necessary because I think the only way that you're going to really truly connect with an audience is if you're as realistic as possible without crossing a line. And
no doubt.
There's things that go on in this world now that people want to not to discuss or handle because they think if we don't talk about it or discuss it, it's just something that happens in the movies and in the shows. And as much as it hurt my heart to see something like that, I think it was necessary, not just for the show and for our audience, but for his character development. Because like you're saying, up until this episode, we don't really know much about him. We know little about him. We know that he's not the greatest person. Not going to go into too much detail, but a previous episode before that, there was a whole situation with him and another girl. Like, he's messy. He's very messy, and he doesn't care.
But
and he's entitled.
I think the episode even went a little further with specifically that scene because, again, I mentioned like the whorehouses, and I'm like, well, he's whoring. Like, that doesn't surprise me in this setting, right?
No.
Or even the cheating on his sister wife. I'm like, I don't really.
Yeah.
I don't. It's not that I don't care. I'm just like, welcome to Game of Thrones. Like a king cheating on a boy child king cheating on his wife. I'm not surprised, but having his own children fight to the death in kid fights, it's like, oh, you're a bad person.
It's setting him apart. Yeah, this is a world full of like total debauchery, but it's like it's setting him apart from just like your tip. It's like, oh, okay, everybody does this. Like everybody does this to handmaids. Everybody's marrying their uncle. Everybody's marrying, all this kind of stuff. But it's like
you're taking it to another level.
He doesn't even know who knows how many of these little towheads he's got running around.
Right.
It's basically he's so terrible, and his mom knows that too. And that's such a big part of this conflict is that like, okay, this council wants this, but he also knows that at the end of the day, he is not fit to lead. Even close to at all.
Right.
And one last comment on this, I think it really doesn't just show Alicent's like character, but Otto's character too. Because you've been
Otto
knowing.
Don't give a fuck, man.
Otto don't give a fuck. Otto's been knowing about this little boy and just his dark secrets since he was a child. And the fact that you just enabled it and allowed it. And as we go on with this episode, I'm pretty sure you'll bring up some of that stuff too. Like there was points in the episodes where he made it very clear, like I know exactly the type of person we're putting in the throne, and I don't care because I want my blood in that throne.
Right,
Yeah.
and so that's where I'll go.
Oh,
I'll actually go into the next segment of I'm going to be because I definitely want to get to the stuff at the end because holy shit. But
that last minute.
I will rapid fire this in sort of I will call it 3 groups, right? So group 1, you have what Otto is doing, right? Which was fucking insane. You know, he goes through and he has this scene where he brings in the noble houses that are currently at the Red Keep, right? And he makes them all bend the knee. And if you don't bend the knee, you fucking hang. You die.
Yeah.
You know, the one man who tried to escape and go tell Rhaenyra, he hung. I mean, he hung people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
the court.
He's doing stuff like that, but even more kind of cool to me is the scene where he goes to the White Worm. And it reminds me so much of a story that I read, the Way of the Shadows, where there's a woman who she's technically the operation of all the whorehouses in town, but she takes care of all the orphan children too. And it's her spy network, right? They become her spy network because she feeds them. And, you know, Otto goes to her and bribes her to find Aegon. And she says this quote, "There is no power but what the people allow you to take." And
yeah,
I mean, that whole moment where when she's like, I could have killed him. I can kill him right now and not tell you shit.
I feel, and it's crazy because I'm like, I've never gotten into Game of Thrones for the viewers out there. I have not sat down and truly watched it like I should. So this is really like my first taste of this universe. And for someone who has not watched it, that whole moment between them two gave me straight chills because it was an exchange of who has the power in this situation right now. Because I could easily give you something, but that means that you will in return owe me something 10 times fold. And I think that was just such an interesting dynamic because you also got to see the effects of the kingdom and like how.
Oh no, yeah, it was definitely crazy because Otto thinks. I mean, especially in this show, it shows you you see the crown, you see the power the crown has.
Yeah.
Again, you call my grandchildren bastards, you die on the spot, right? Like they're these so powerful people. But literally, the White Worm, this just brought over woman from Daemon, this who she is, right, can look at arguably the man with the most power in the kingdom right now, who is usurping the throne, and she's like, I already know the king's dead. I already know why you're here. I know where he is. I have him. And just
I'm
to
2
see
steps
the
ahead
look
of you.
him getting brought down a level is like I loved seeing it. Now I'll jump to the next the next segment. And Kellen, I'm gonna shoot this one at you. So we see I call it I even wrote this in my notes, my annoying notes on this episode. It's the Aemond and Cole's Fantastic Adventure. Where, like I said, they go to the Silk House, but the big thing is whenever they find Aegon, the fight. You know, the fight breaks out. There's a good sword fight, but even more so, you know, Aemon's talking about he should lead the kingdom. He's smarter. He's more noble. He does the fucking job. And the main thing I want to ask you about is when Aemon looks at him and says, "Let me go. I will find a ship, and I will never be seen again." That hesitation. What were you thinking there, man?
Yeah, well, because he's like, I'm not fit, and he's like, dude, if it was up to me, like, trust me, like, this
like,
is,
yeah,
you know,
bro, we know.
This is not like, yeah,
that motion.
yeah, like, there's things in motion. I'm following orders. This is not an endorsement for me by any means, and yeah, just that conflict of knowing that, like, I am by far the better brother. I am by far the better. I made way more sense to be in a position of leadership because he has a darkness to him, and that like he'll keep things close to the chest, and he's playing a long game, but he at the same time he's not willing to just cross certain lines, and he cares about the family, like name, the legacy. He doesn't just want to piss it away and be, you know, just like rich kid asshole.
Right.
Like,
and I honestly feel like if you're a person that the only thing keeping you from the highest position in the world that you know you could do,
Mm-hmm.
and again, he said, we're moral, we're honorable, I'm studious, I'm a swordsman, and you can't do it because this motherfucker was born before you. Like I could understand the frustration entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And piggybacking
So
off of that, like,
Mhm.
just like that moment that you were talking about, I felt like it was just so intense because he, like you said, he's going for the long haul. He knows, like, I think he knew, like, you fleeing is not going to benefit me getting the throne at all. So I
Mhm.
think that was one thing that ran through his head. And I think another thing too, that's his brother. That's, from earlier episodes, they grew up together. They were very close.
Well,
Mhm.
see, I'll give you a different thought on that one because Aemond, I mean, Aemond was still picked on by his brother with the pig and the this and that, right? And
Right, but
I
I
just
also feel like he wouldn't. There was a certain extent that his older brother would go. You know what I mean? And at the end of
Mhm.
the day, he was the one that truly did defend him when it came
Yeah,
to him versus the Strongs that
right,
are
right,
not the
right.
Strongs, but are the Strongs.
So
Kind of
I'll
like beat up my little brother. Like anybody else messes with my little brother, they're gonna mess with me.
Yeah,
But like,
I mean, but it's flipped exactly, and I mean, I think it is one of those things where he's like, "That's my brother," but he's a fucking moron. Like,
yeah.
but he's my brother, and he's the heir, and that's not changing.
I think in a moment though, he wanted to let him go, not just for the sake of the throne and because he knew he was a bad person, but because he just saw the hurt in his brother's eyes that he did not want
Right.
this, and he did not want, like, don't take me, please don't put
I,
me in this position, like, I don't want to do this.
So,
I think he's gonna fuck
Mhm.
it up too. He's like at the same time, like you'll be over here fucking it up while meanwhile, I'll still be the same steady, like dependable person that I've always been this whole time. And
Right.
then,
Well, and I
I'm,
think he also
I'm
knows war is looming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so I'm gonna hit this third one, and then we can get into the really juicy stuff. And this is something that I specifically wanted to talk about, just because like I love slow, meticulous manipulation because it grinds my gears, and I'm the kind of person that calls these things out.
Mhm.
So you have Alicent, and it's two conversations. So she goes and tries to talk to Rhaenyra, or not Rhaenyra, Rhaenys. And she's
Mhm.
like, Rhaenys, side with me. You will have, you will keep your lands. And they will go to your granddaughters. La da da.
Mhm.
And Rhaenys makes the tempting comment of, "Have you ever thought about yourself on the Iron Throne?"
So
Right.
glad you
And
brought
the
that
thing
up.
is, I don't believe that that was her saying, like, trying to tempt Alicent and be like, "What if you had the Iron Throne?" I think what she was doing in that moment was trying to make Alicent understand that Rhaenys was denied the Iron Throne.
Mhm.
To be quite
Yeah.
honest, she deserved it. She's literally, her moniker is the queen that never was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that moment, she is being asked to betray another princess who has been promised the throne.
Mm.
Right.
And she looks her in that eye and I think what she was, there was so much said in that moment because she was saying, she's looking at her and she's like, first of all, like, kind of making the point of, I will not betray her because this is what I went through. But also, I think she was trying to explain to her the wrath. You don't understand the wrath of someone who has scorned the Iron Throne that wants it. I think there was a lot in that conversation that Alicent did not understand or wasn't willing
Oh,
to listen to.
but let's be real. There's so much that Allison doesn't know and doesn't understand. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The whole
Oh yeah.
story of the fire, they don't know.
Right. Well,
Only
and
the
see,
king
I
and the
even like,
princess knew.
so Alicent goes to Otto, right? And in this moment, she's trying to take command. She's trying to protect her children, her family, and do what she believes is right, right? So she goes to her father and she starts saying, "Here's how the fuck it's going to be." And it's the scene where they're in the dark room together and she's
Yeah.
like, X, Y, and Z is happening. Kristen Cole will be knighted as the King's Guard, this, that, and the other. And when she finally nuts up to her dad and says, here's how, like your plan is going to happen, but it's happening my way. All her
Right.
dad does is go, "You look like your mother in certain lights."
Yes.
And if that is
Yeah.
not, I mean, I literally was like, who? the manipulation of him,
Yeah.
because he manipulated her. She's been his pawn this whole time.
Yeah.
I mean,
He
From the
needed
beginning.
something to deflect her.
married the king, like
Yeah.
the whole time, like used his daughter, like
Right, but I even think that comment was just a way to, one, get a dig at her, two, kind of distract the situation, but three, just kind of remind her, like, oh, you're like your mother. That's cute. Like
Yeah, like
it was
belittle
just
her.
right, but
dismiss-
she's getting all these people making these very blatant claims to her like that, right? And
Mhm.
I think she's swimming for whatever grasp and control she can have in the moment.
right, because she never has any. you
Right,
know?
right. And now we're going to
No.
get to the most awkward scene of the episode, guys.
We were talking about the
Lara Strong is fucking weird, bro.
Can
like
we just
the
take a moment?
eat
Can we just take a moment?
moment in there.
That, because at first I was like, okay, they're talking, okay, and then she started taking off her shoes, and I was like, isn't that kind of like against the rules? Like, isn't there like not necessarily like a nun rule, but like a nun rule, like if it's not your husband, you're not supposed to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a queen, you're below me, you're not supposed to see my son. And then as soon as she took off her shoes, I was like, oh, is that what we're doing? Is this what he was talking about with repayment? Oh, this is sickening. I think this is
so yes and no. There is a kind of like a chastity thing, right? Like you're talking about, like a nun thing, right?
yeah.
But the whole deal with that is, and it's quite simple, really, is it's also the same thing about where kings are only supposed to fuck their wives. Like it doesn't mean anything when a door is closed. It doesn't
Right.
matter.
Yeah.
But my whole thing with it though is just like, man, that was weird.
It was a very
That was some awkwardness. You know what I'm saying?
Very weird,
Game
but
of Thrones never
again,
fails to shock me.
I think again I think that this whole episode and just the cringe that's behind it was so necessary, because we're at a point where we're really developing these characters now and what
Right,
they're
and that-
willing to do and how far they're going to take it. And in a previous episode, when he did that will for her, even though that was not asked, he made it very clear, like, you will owe me. So
Right,
yeah, he got the
right.
position
When he
wanted.
slaughtered his whole family for her, yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a big thing too, because Rainey said it earlier. Before these two interactions, her father and with Lars, Rainey said, you're manipulated by men. You keep having to answer to men. Well,
Right.
what does she do? Her father treats her like a child, and then
Mhm.
to go to her one guy that gets shit done, her cleaner. You know what I'm saying? She's got to let him do that.
Yeah.
Like, it just further cemented where she's like, Jesus Christ, I have to deal with it. It's it's playing into her character of literally, but she's only doing this for her children. So it's like, this was definitely a side to Alicent that we needed to understand.
Right.
Mhm.
So now I will go into, and we're about to get to the big deal. So let's see here. So we have Rainey's escaping. She leaves. We're seeing houses burn. We're seeing people hang.
Yeah.
And the number one thing this woman says was so cool. She goes, "I need my dragon."
Yeah.
I
I
need
love
my
how that was
dragon.
her first thought. Like, where the fuck is
Yeah.
my dragon at?
Well,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
taking the
it's like
opportunity.
we're in a world where everyone has sticks, and I got a Uzi somewhere. Like, where the
Yeah.
where is it?
Wait,
You know what
okay,
I mean?
I do have a quick question.
Absolutely.
The dragon that she took, was that the same dragon that was her daughter's?
No, that was not Vagar.
That was not Vagar?
Vagar is bonded to Aemond. She
Okay,
went and
and
got
that's
her dragon.
okay, so that's another thing I was gonna ask, because again, I have not watched Game of Thrones, so I haven't gotten the whole. But is it like a werewolf situation? Like, once they're imprinted with whoever calls to them, like, that is who they're
Did
with?
you just try to tell me that something from Twilight is an actual werewolf thing?
First of all, it didn't come from Twilight. Imprinting is
No.
in every werewolf story.
No,
They
I'm
just did not use the
messing with
correct
you.
word.
I'm just
Thank
messing
you.
with you. So no, essentially the way it works, and there's a lot of mythos behind it, and George R. R. Martin has said this as well. So yes, Targaryen children in their crib are often next to a dragon egg. the dragon will bond with them and listen to them, right?
Okay.
But again, that doesn't mean like when Rhaenys' daughter died, that doesn't mean that her dragon can't go to the next person it chooses to be tamed by.
Okay.
The only difference would be, and this is another reason why Rhaenys, in her instinct is, where's my dragon? Because A, it wins battles and wars, and it's like having a nuke when someone else doesn't.
Yeah.
But also, like,
Yep.
imagine if you were born and from a child, this is your dragon, right? You
Yeah.
ride
Yeah.
the dragon. That is like Daemon and Caraxes.
Like
Yeah,
Papa.
I've had that dragon for 40 years. Like that's my extension. You know what I mean?
Especially
And-
at this point where she really doesn't have,
She's vulnerable.
like,
I mean-
all she has is her grandchildren, and that's it.
Right. Well,
Her-
that and it's kind of a game of every
Every person for
dragon
themselves.
counts.
Yeah.
And that's the big issue with Dragonstone, and why I'll tell you this. I believe that is why Otto told the original Knights Commander, go to Dragonstone, be quick and quiet, because they need every dragon egg they can get. Like, that's the most important part, is
Right.
who has the dragons wins the day. Aemond has the biggest dragon in Vhagar. Don't mean nothing. Don't mean, more dragons, the better. Now,
Yeah.
so
Especially quicker ones.
so we go into, and this is the final two beats of this scene, okay? Or of this episode. You have, this whole episode's been back and forth and manipulations and all of the the greenhouse internally being divided but coming together out of necessity. Well,
Mhm.
you have Alicent and Aegon are in the chariot or in the transportation, right? And
Right.
even then Alicent is saying, when you become king, don't kill Rhaenyra. She's your sister. Don't do it. My husband never wanted his daughter to die. He loved her, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and this goes into, you see him literally slowly beginning to, he sees the dagger and he's like, ooh.
Yeah.
You see
Then
the
you have
power rushing to
Real-
his head.
Yeah.
Well,
there was-
you watch it begin to corrupt right there. Then
Yeah.
we go into, and I'm going to set the scene here, a beautiful coronation for a king.
Mhm.
It's obviously not done where they're normally done because this is treason. But
Right.
they like cattle, they force all of the poor people to come witness, right? And it's beautiful. The knights procession where they all hold up their swords. It was fantastically. I mean,
It was
the
fantastic
cinematography-
until the wrong person came out.
Well, I'm
and
just
then it
saying,
was
the
sickening.
cinematography
Oh,
out of this world. Even I don't care who came out. That shit was beautiful.
No, this whole episode though, since I just literally binged it, this whole episode was definitely, the cinematography was set apart, completely
Yeah.
different than from the
And-
first 8.
So he makes it up. They crown him, and it's just like when he starts. They say, "Long live the king," and he's pounding his sword in the
Right.
air, right? And he begins to just accept. Oh my God, I'm king! It's amazing.
I just started
The
shaking
rush
my
of
head.
power.
I just started shaking my head at
Yeah.
that point. I was just like, this is not.
See, I kind of wasn't, because I was like, he's in it, dude. He's wrapped in it. He doesn't realize that he did nothing to get himself here, and he has no say in
Right.
shit.
yeah. None. He's going to be used and controlled. There's a reason that he's
And
wanted to in
he's a
that
rock
throne.
star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an absolute rock star. He's just like, I'm just here. Like,
And I
this
think
is-
that's
great.
that's where I started shaking my head, because I was just like, in that moment, I think I was just like, oh shit. Like,
right.
now that his head is fully wrapped around that idea of him being in this situation, and now the nitty-gritty it's getting down really to the nitty-gritty, because this whole episode was, I feel like it was tooth and nail, because as soon as, okay, the king is dead, everyone's on a time slot.
I mean,
Right,
just-
right. And honestly, about the king being dead real fast, I was kind of shocked that I didn't see Patty at least give one line in this episode, because every time I thought he was going to die, he didn't die.
Right. Well,
Honestly, though, shout out Patty. He deserves all the Grammys and Emmys and things.
He's so good in that role. But like, as soon as he's dead, it's just like there was no time, and you knew it was going to be that way. But it's just like immediately, it's like, let's just go through all the people who think that they have a claim on this, who are going to manipulate and do what politically they
Right.
need to do morally what they need to do just to do it. And when he when Aegon was coronated, it was almost in the beginning, it was kind of underwhelming. It was like they announced him as king, and the people like kind of were like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then there just wasn't much, but then it built up, and you saw it just like in the carriage, like you were talking about with the dagger, where you saw a change, and you saw a look in his eye where it was like, "Oh, okay, maybe this is." It turns out this is something he wants. Maybe this is something, and as he's lifting that sword and it's just building and building, yeah, you see it. He's like, "Oh, all these people are cheering for me." You just see it go.
Right. So
And,
here's the great juxtaposition. And I love a good juxtaposition. You can quote me on this in any part of this show you want. I love high highs and low lows. I love seeing the dramatic casting between two different moments of the character. You see him riding the high, cheering for these people, and then you see a fucking dragon bust through the ground. And Rhaenys has her dragon, and his mom is protecting him while he sniffles.
While he's coward. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to what you just said, like that whole, like how that whole scene started with the Knightsmen and the swords. If you go back and you watch, as soon as he steps on the screen to walk down, you see tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
You see,
and a whole range of like of
emotions.
And that is what's so good about. I'll say this: that's what's so good about any of from Game of Thrones to here. So Game of Thrones does this thing, and where like it's kind of like the intro to this episode. There'll be these long, drawn out songs where no one speaks. I mean, fuck. There's a moment in Game of Thrones when Daenerys makes it to Dragonstone. It's like 5-10 minutes of silence, just music and her walking and her doing specific actions, and she doesn't need to speak. The look on her face, the emotion she goes through is very palatable right there. You know what she's going through, and they do that very well in anything they do. That's what they do. They do so many things so much better than other shows. But I'm gonna throw this because this is the end of the episode, and I'm gonna throw this to y'all. I'm gonna give my quick piece and throw it to y'all and see what y'all think or what y'all thought about this. Rhaenys busts out, dragons out, people are screaming and freaking out, and I literally sat there on the couch going, "Say Dracarys, say Dracarys." They are all right there, lined up. Say one word, your fucking fancy Valyrian word, and they all go right.
There you're gone.
And she stared them in the eyes and made it very clear, "I could have killed you here."
Yep.
Turned and left. What was y'all's flip a coin? I don't know who went last. I think Corey went last, maybe. But
probably.
What did y'all think of that scene? Just that whole beautiful ending.
It was such a mic drop. It was also at the same time it was a flex, but it was an unveiling. It was showing Aegon for what he is. So like on the same day that he's being introduced to his people, because he's been kind of had to be tucked away, kept away, because let's face it, he's a problem kid, So his first introduction goes from this to cowering behind his mother, and an automatic, like any respect that he got from his title, I just feel like she just completely pulled out from underneath him. He just looks so weak and stupid now.
Well, let me hit that before I throw it to Corey on her thoughts. I want to respond to you there. I also think it's a very big thing of he's been coddled, right? He literally even said in the carriage, Dad never denounced. At any time he could have said he wanted me to be king. He didn't. This isn't real. He didn't want to. So he does it. He plays the puppet role, becomes the king, and literally, I don't think it's necessarily to me that he was sniveling. It is just like the Greens figured out in that moment that right there is what a real Targaryen is. That right there is what a dragon riding blood and fire Targaryen is and can do. She stared down at them, realizing, "I can kill all of you.
Yeah.
With one word. You're all dead."
And
then she turned and left. So, I mean, yes, he was sniveling, but I also think he realized, like, oh, the whole Greens just realized, oh, fuck, she had us.
Yeah.
And she walked away. Corey, what was your thoughts on that whole moment? Because there was a lot there.
I think for me, and I really I have loved this character from the jump. I loved her. I think she just deserves so much, and so much has been taken away from her. And as a woman and as a mom, I feel like that was just the biggest fuck you that she can give them. And I think that is what she needed. I think it was so vital, not just for the Greens to know, but for her to know too, like, I'm not the one to be trifled with. I come from this family. I am this family. And there's nothing you can say or do that will depart me from this family. And now I'm about to run and go tell. And you
I
guys
think
about
there
to get
definitely
fucked.
was a big. I think there definitely was a big, because she was locked up, right?
Yeah.
So she goes from being locked up to literally being, I am Rhaenys Targaryen. That was her surname. I am the queen that never was. Do not fuck with me. You realize what you're about to do, like what the decisions you've made have caused, because that's the thing, is she's kind of tossed by the winds too. She has to play the role to her husband, to all of this. She had to bow to a king when she could have been queen. And it's just this moment of like, she's a player in the game for sure. But like, that was her being like, you don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
I
like
am
you may think
Rhaenys
I'm a pawn in
Targaryen.
this game, but I am not. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, dude, it's fierce. It was a powerful moment, but I mean, I think it set the stage for like, here's what's coming. Now, I'll be real honest with you, I was mad she didn't do it, but that would have ended the story immediately, and then we wouldn't have a story.
Right.
But I mean, I think it was definitely it was.
But the crazy part is, sorry to interrupt. The crazy part is I knew she wasn't going to. I don't think she could as a mom, especially as a mom who just recently lost her kids.
Right,
I don't
because
think
she was staring into the
if you
eyes
saw
of
she saw her. Yeah, she saw Alicent's face. She saw all their faces. And she knows what she's trying to do, not just for her son, but for her family.
Uh-huh.
And I just don't think as a woman she would have.
Right. I think there was a lot more in that, especially because I think she would have done it if Alicent wouldn't have immediately jumped to the defense and mama beared it. I think she saw the mama bear and was like,
right.
But she also made it a point to be like, this is the game you're playing. This is now you will face another Targaryen woman who doesn't care.
Yeah.
Who you have robbed of the throne, and she's coming. So with that in mind,
she's ruthless.
With that in mind, we have let me do one thing real fast, you guys. Apologize for the pause here. 3 live streams in a day, bro. We really got this.
Yeah. We've been doing the damn thing.
I will say this. This is my last major question. Then we can go into discussion if you guys would like. I know it is getting pretty late, and we've covered a lot. So we saw the preview for the next episode, which looks like that's where the budget went.
Right.
Let's be real. That right there, because you got the episodes of, you go back to when Millie Alcock was playing. The younger girls were still playing, and there wasn't. The budget wasn't what it for how much they got for this show. I was kind of sitting there thinking, where's the budget? Where's the like? This has been amazing, and trust me, you can see the budget and everything they do. Again, that coronation scene was incredible. But I'm like, what are y'all do? Where's the episode where you're like, we have no more money, right? And that preview to me, with all the different dragons, with everything you saw, what are y'all thinking about this next episode? I mean, I know we're all hyped for it, but as far as what do you want to see? What do you expect? Where do you want this season to end off on? Or where do you think it will?
I feel like it's going to be the start of a very long game. And I think, I even feel like, I feel like she's going to be conflicted, because I don't think she necessarily wants to go to war, but she knows that she has to. We also know that she necessarily didn't really want this position. She didn't want the position of Iron Throne. This was handed to her by her father because of what we know to be of the story of Aegon. Right? Am I hitting the point here?
I mean, sort of. I think. Oh, I think. Vengeance is coming, in my opinion. I do think this is because it's a slap in the face.
It
It
is a
is
slap in the
very
face, and I don't. And I mean, but I think in a way she knew that it was coming because it was always speculated. It's been speculated from,
But if you think that the last time she talked to Allison, they were improving. She
Right.
was going to
were.
fly back.
Yeah.
It
But
was an
she's also
improvement.
mentioned in previous episodes that she knows that Otto's a big hand in it.
Oh yeah,
She's been knowing, she's
Yeah.
been knowing Otto. Yeah. So I think
She's been
Right.
keeping receipts the whole time, and
Yeah.
it's all about to come back around, and it's she really just showing up on that dragon showed why she should have been queen in the first place, like why she's the one who's worthy. And I think that a big part of this is that like you guys didn't see it, but you guys are going to see it now, and
yeah.
I think
Right.
all that are coming, and I just love how because I also didn't watch Game of Thrones, but I just love seeing all these different houses and colors and all these divisions happening, and seeing how there's just been splintering as this season has gone on. More and
Yeah.
more, like the Seven Realms or whatever. Like it started in a time of like peace when we first started this show, and
Right.
it's like all this splintering, and that's where this next episode is going to go. And I know they're gonna hit us with some like twists and turns and some surprises, stuff that we're not
Definitely
seeing
some
come.
cliffhangers.
Right. Well, and
Mhm.
I'll say this. I will say this. Two things. One, I do agree with you. I love the connections between houses. That's why I loved Game of Thrones, because it focused you were introduced to so much so fast, right? But I do think one of the things about it makes me think of Game of Thrones. I love stupid characters that are so honorable to a fault.
Right.
Like the man who said, "My family does not bend the knee," or we do not break oaths, right?
Yeah.
And it was a very clear thing where he made everyone come and bow to Renara. He never did that for Aegon. He never did that for any of his other children because he didn't want them on the throne.
Mhm.
There's a very powerful scene in Game of Thrones where a small little girl, Lyanna Mormont, she's like 12, literally stands up to all these men and makes them bow at one point to Jon Snow, because she says literally, "My family swore we only recognize one king, the king in the north, whose name is Stark, of the Stark family," right? And she calls everyone out. She's like, "These people killed your son. You still refuse the call of the Starks. Like, I will only bow to one." And so even that guy, in the throne room, he said, "We don't break oaths easy," and they kill him, right? Like it's
Right.
very clear that there are a lot of people who are not going to bow, and there will be lines drawn. But, and this is my last point here about this next episode, I'm very, very sure, because I have read the books, but this show's been
Mhm.
differing slightly. What if they? Okay,
Right.
so what we have seen very clearly is a lot of people having a lot of kids. I mean,
Yeah.
fucking Renara has her 3 sons with Strong, then the 2 that are now her stepdaughters. Then she's had 2, maybe 3 with Daemon. She's had her Aegon and her Viserys. And Allison's
Didn't she have
had her
twins with
kids.
Damon or no?
Hmm?
Doesn't she have twins with or were there twins
Twins
Aegons?
and then
Well, that's okay. So Renara has her 3 strong boys.
Right.
Strong boys.
Strong. Strong.
Then she has the 2 daughters that are Daemon's that were from his previous marriage.
Oh,
Right.
that's right. Okay.
Then
5.
she now has Viserys and Aegon. She has an Aegon as well, right? Stop
Okay,
getting
that's right. I was like, wait, I don't know if they were twins. I just remember they look like they were very close in age.
Right. And then you
Okay.
have, Alicent not only has her children, but her Aegon is having children. Right? You see the 2 children playing at one point. So
Yeah.
I'm just going. My whole build up to this is to say
Mhm.
we might see a child or 2 die this next episode.
We just might.
I mean,
Right.
because I truly feel like nothing has. I mean, yes, the stealing of the throne, the coronation of Aegon is enough to start a war, but we are going to end this season with something so messed up that we're going to go into the next season like, oh, it's all out blood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is all out blood. And I don't know who is going to cast the first stone.
Mm.
I mean, I have an idea.
I definitely agree with that.
I have an
Mhm.
idea
What is
from
your
the
idea?
books. Well, I mean, I can tell you exactly what the books say will happen, but I mean, I guess this is spoiler talk. I can talk about it. I believe that one of her strong boys is going to die.
Oh, me too. I second that.
I believe that Aemon Targaryen will take upon his title as the Kinslayer, Aegon Targaryen, the Kinslayer,
Yep.
and we will see all out fucking war.
Yeah.
Just going. Anybody you could have any kind of claim. Kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
I think I think it'll be more than just claims at this point. I think it will be vengeance. Alicent's
Oh, for
earlier comment about eye for an eye, you
Mhm.
took my son's eye, I want an eye. I think
Yeah.
that will go much deeper.
Oh,
Mhm.
for sure. I would be
So,
disappointed if
yeah.
it wouldn't.
Right, exactly. So overall, I definitely think this was a fantastic episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
I'm excited to see with Renata too, like the layers, like how deep are we gonna get to her core? Because I feel like throughout the series we've been seeing her innocence kind of dwindle, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. And then, when she went to Damon about the plan of how, with her husband and that, and just like how all that got plot and schemed, I feel like we saw a different side of her that we just weren't really expecting. And I'm
Mhm.
excited. I'm excited to see how deep her layers go, because we are in war now, and this is gonna be,
Absolutely.
we're going to a completely different ball game, and you have
Yeah,
to
we
have a
can-
different type of skin.
Oh yeah, and I think these cutesy fucking I mean, I'm sorry. I get it where Alicent is, and they tried to make her in this episode be the don't kill Renara, don't do that. Let's still be good people. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
either
it's
way, she's coming
foolhardy.
for you.
What?
She's coming for you, whether you want to kill her or not.
I think it's very foolhardy. I think it's very like, oh, she was my friend, and I'm not trying to downplay the significance to it, but I think she's very naive about what is about to happen. I don't think she
Yes.
understands the depth of what is going on. She's out of her depth. She's just trying to save her child. But again, she's like, don't kill him, don't imprison him. That's just what Viserys wanted. I'm sure she thinks we can talk it out. And
Mm.
she gonna learn real quick that they both cannot. The decisions made, one side has to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was Alicent's biggest fear. She was like, it was always the talk of your children will die when she takes the throne, or
Mm.
the other way, right? And it's like, you just cast the first stone.
Not
Didn't
even you.
Right.
You
realize
allowed
it.
your
You did it
allowed
under
your
this
father.
guise.
Yeah.
You did it under
Mhm.
this guise of, oh, I want to, she's my friend. Let's not hurt her. You just started a war.
Yeah.
I bet
And I think we'll see.
It's
I
been
just
weird since.
I'll be real, because we didn't get it in Game of Thrones. There are 3 living dragons. Well, yes,
Right.
3 living dragons. The whole show. I'm
We're
ready
just
to
getting
see
all.
dragon on dragon.
Yeah. And I think too, I feel like Damon's character too is going to be a very big role in this last episode, just because he's not
Hope so.
afraid to cross. He's not afraid to cross lines. He's not afraid to do what he needs to do to get done. And I feel like this whole first part of the season, that's what they were trying to portray was, he's not afraid to take that extra step and go that extra mile to achieve what he wants. So I'm very curious on his role with Rhaenyra as far as Otto's role with Alicent, and how these women are going to navigate this war with men in their ear the way they are.
But
You know
see,
what I mean?
I do think it's a little different, and the only reason why I'm saying that is I think that Damon being the snake that he is, being we know Damon. We've seen the dirty tricks he does, right? We know Damon has always been loyal to family.
Right.
When he took the dragon egg and Rhaenyra came, I mean, he would have willingly fought there where Rhaenyra showed up. He said, "Okay, here's the egg," right? I remember when they were talking initially about getting him off the King's Guard and out of the small council, and they were feared that
Right.
Daemon would kill Viserys. Viserys was like,
Oh yeah.
he's my
Yeah.
fucking brother. Y'all are idiots, because that's not Daemon's MO.
Yeah.
And
He'll
then
I
kill
don't
you.
think he will do manipulating. I literally think he's like, no, y'all ruined my brother's legacy. This is also now my wife. Weird. And it's my niece's wife.
Mhm.
But no, I think Damon's actually probably going to step up and be like, really, I don't think he's going to be manipulating Renara.
Right.
No, I don't think
Honestly, he
I
probably
don't think
saw
he will
this coming.
manipulate her. I think he will definitely go out of his way to manipulate the situation. Like if she is too afraid to take that step, I don't think he will. You know what I mean?
Right. But I low-key think he's been prepping
Right
this
about-
whole time. Because
Yeah.
if you remember, they never spoke about it. It was never mentioned why it happened. But do you remember when they showed him harvesting dragon eggs?
Yes.
Right.
I think
Mhm.
he's been prepping for this for a long time.
And we're
I
gonna
mean,
have-
even on the funeral scene where he walked up to Otto and
Yeah.
he was like, no matter how fat the slug gets, it will continue to eat. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
he's been planning. And not planning in this, I mean, yes, it's sneaky, but it's more of a like, we will have what we need. We'll have to kill them, and we will.
Well, because we are the House of the Dragons, and we will have dragons. Like, period.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, he's got Damon's very much so got like Shane in the Walking Dead energy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
yeah.
he's like there's not any waiting around, there's not any trying to find out what he's like, I'm lopping heads, you know.
Right.
And I think he's gonna step up in a big way. I want him to. He's honestly, I mean, that he's such an amazing actor that what's his
Yeah.
name? Matt.
Yeah, dude.
Matt Smith.
He's and everything he's ever been in, he's amazing. And
so,
Mhm.
honestly, the performances are so incredible. But yeah, he was loyal to his brother. Like when he showed up and he brought the crown and the sword and
Yeah.
added it. Like they everybody thought that he was there to challenge, and even picking up his brother's crown when his brother fell and like all that. Like
Or that wasn't even
yeah.
scripted. I don't know if you know that, but that wasn't scripted.
Yeah, I saw like a TikTok saying that
it
wasn't.
wasn't.
The
Oh,
crown
Mhm.
and him picking it up and then crowning him wasn't planned, but he was planned to walk up. It was just an extra added thing that like he just went with.
oh, that's
Yeah.
so sweet.
But I will
I
say,
don't know.
you guys, and not to cut everybody off, but I will say it is getting pretty late. This is the third live stream for Planet Fanatics today. Corey, I'm sure this has been a hit the ground running day for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
We
Okay.
for anyone new, not actually new or not new to the channel, Corey this has been her first day with Planet Fanatics. We've been streaming like crazy today. Once again, I will say we went over a ton of Marvel topics this morning. We had an amazing 2.5-hour live stream between major content creators in the Recast T'Challa movement. Deshaun, the host, our boss of this channel, was in there with E-Man, the guy who started the Recast T'Challa petition and movements. Back of the bus reviews. I mean, it was fantastic. So if you haven't seen it, go watch that. We broke down this episode of House of the Dragon for you. We're so excited for that season finale. We're definitely going to be glued into that, and we will do something much bigger for that episode. We're going to get in there, watch it, give our review for the whole season. Because that's the thing about these shows. We could talk about this thing for 5 hours and still have new things we haven't talked about. And I know everyone's got work, we got kids, we got stuff going on, so we're probably going to call it a night here. As always, though, you guys, we're always in the quest for 1,000 subscribers. We have our Discord for plans of the day or for questions of the week. If y'all want to ask, we go live every Sunday. We appreciate everyone watching, giving us the ability to create the amazing content that we create. We could not do it without all of our fans that watch our content. I don't even call it fans anymore. It's a family at this point. Everyone joining the Discord, coming in all the time. It's awesome. But yeah, we just always show our appreciation. Again, I'm Trey. We have Kellen here. We have Corey here. Great co-hosts. It's something, Kellen is fairly new to the channel, but he's growing fast. Corey is brand new to the channel. Yeah, and again, we will see you guys next week for our weekly live stream and our House of the Dragon review for the season.
Yes.
We appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.
All right.